Hello and welcome to Voices of the Vic podcast with me, Ben Aiton. And this week I'm joined by Tom Wicks from the Golden Pages Fanzine. Tom, how are you doing, mate?
Evening, Ben. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's lovely, lovely game yesterday, wasn't it? It's got a smile on my face again.
It's nice to do these when we talk about victories, isn't it? Like you've been on many times before, and I think more so than not, we've spoken about defeats or disappointing performances. So it's nice to actually have you on where we're talking about a positive win for Watford and also a victory on Graham Taylor's match day and academy players shining through and maybe earning the 3 points for Watford. We'll discuss this in this episode. But yeah, Watford moved up to third in the table with a 2-0 win at home against Blackpool on Graham Taylor's match day. It's been 6 years since the greatest ever Watford manager sadly passed away. Tom, just come to you quickly on this. Graham Taylor, what a man, what a legend. Not take away the football side of him, but as a man as well. So many people have got so many nice words about him, and I think if I remember rightly, we've had you on before talking about Graham Taylor. And did you have a story of when he write to a family member of yours? Is that right?
No, no, it was mine was I had an
Or
encounter
train
with him at
station?
Hemel Station. Yeah,
That's it.
a bit of a surprise encounter, and yeah, just a lovely bloke. And you know, nowadays in football, you don't get many football people that will give you the time of day if you're a fan. But you know, myself and you've heard many other Watford fans that have had like wonderful experiences and encounters with him, and I think it just goes to show what a decent, kind, caring man he was. And yeah, he's sorely missed.
Yeah, and he would have enjoyed yesterday, especially seeing how many youngsters were in and around that first team, and to see a youngster by the name of Toby Adeyemo scoring on his debut for 4 minutes. He was only on the pitch for. But he showed more in 4 minutes than what Bakum Bayer did for 60 odd minutes. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But Tom, did you notice as well when obviously it was a Graham Taylor match day when Buddy Holly song was playing, "Raining in My Heart"? Did you notice it just started raining at that point as well?
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? It's yeah,
It was a
some
sign from above,
coincidences from
wasn't it?
that day. Yeah,
Definitely. But yeah, the lineup. A few people were scratching their heads with his lineup, and I was like, I don't really see where everyone's going to fit in. It was a makeshift side. We've got lots of injuries still, but there was a return of Hamza Chowdhury in that middle of the midfield. So it was Daniel Batman in goal, Ngakia, Trucy Con, Siriota, Cathcart, Morris, Chowdhury, Gaspar. Kone got his home debut. Saar and Bakum Bio. Not much to really pick from, really, from Slav. I think he picked his strongest 11 to what he had available. But what did you make of that starting lineup? Did you think that was enough to get those 3 points against the struggling Blackpool team?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I've spoken about the sort of strength of our squad on paper from the start of the season. There's a couple of names that have been added to that as well, and we've got players like Morris coming in. I've been really impressed with Morris. I'm sure we'll go on to talk about him later, but there were a lot of good individual performances, but there was much more team cohesion. And I don't know whether it's bad that it's taken an injury crisis that we've had to get that far, but we seem there seems to be a bit of team spirit there. And yeah, it was quite weakened from our strongest lineup. But I thought at the start of the day, particularly with Blackpool's horrendous run of form that they're in, I think you guys tweeted early on in the week to say that there were 9 games without a win. Up steps Watford to help them out. But yeah, fortunately that wasn't the case this time, as it usually is, isn't it?
Yeah, Watford tend to be that side that just gifts opposition wins when they've been on a massive losing streak. And it was nine consecutive winless games, wasn't it, for Blackpool? And Blackpool being second bottom as well, and you just knew they'd rock up to Vicarage Road, injury hit side, 14 injuries and a suspension. That they'll probably turn Watford over on a day. But thankfully, the players showed up. And you're talking about the team connection and the team spirit. Watford fans have not really had much of a connection to this team, but having these youngsters in and around the team and representing our club, having some local lads in there, it's brought that connection back. It's funny what this football club does to us. One week we feel so disconnected, and then after yesterday, we're delighted with what we saw on the pitch by the academy boys. But that's what we've missed, isn't it? It's having those youngsters coming through our academy, representing this football club, and actually putting in the shift as well.
I think that's been a criticism we've had for quite a lot of the season. You know, we in terms of the level of commitment, perhaps, and the hard work of the sides. We experienced games like Luton at home, and then we've had some absolute aberrations as well. And it looks as though it's a bit of a lack of effort. I know that's unlikely to be the case for sort of professional footballers at this stage, but it certainly felt like that. And I mean, talking of the academy, it's in Watford's DNA. Coming back to the Graham Taylor Memorial Day, it's what he built, and it's just been something that has been missing under the Pozzos. We've seen some incredible South American youngsters, and some real talent from the continent and beyond, but we've been missing that academy player or academy players coming in and being given a chance, and we kind of been fed a bit of a narrative that perhaps our academy isn't the strongest or that's not the focus. But it just goes to show that the young players that have been raised in the Watford system, they come through with hunger. You could tell how much it meant to Adeyemo yesterday when he scored. It was beautiful, like seeing Wheel away. He didn't know what to do. His head in his hands. He run over to Jack Greaves, the other academy debutant. And yeah, it was a really nice. I'm getting goosebumps just sort of thinking about that moment. And that's something we can all have a connection to. These are players and people that we can relate to, growing up down the road or being going to the Harefields Academy or whatever, and they feel it. Watford's in their heart, and you don't get that sense with some of the international signings that come in. Some of them do, some of them don't. But yeah, that was great to see. And one thing I noticed, I hung around on purpose after the final whistle just to take it all in. And obviously, it's great vibes when we win a game. But as far as I'm aware, every player did the lap of honour. But the thing that really struck me was Adeyemo. He went the entire front row of the Rookery and he high-fived everyone, all the little kids. And you imagine how much of a boost that must be for him, and all the interviews that you saw from him after the game. He seemed such a humble kid, and he said it was a dream come true. So I'm really chuffed for him, and I hope that he knows that it's just the beginning, and that he's not made it. I didn't get that sense from the interviews, but it could be the start of a great career, whether that's at Watford or beyond. But this is what we should be doing. These are the sort of players that should come through. They're not going to be gems like Asprilla. He's 18 or 19 now, and he looks amazing. These are all going to be rough diamonds. They're going to need time. They're going to need to make mistakes. They're going to need to have the time to make mistakes. And I just hope that continues with Greaves, Adeyemo, Blake as well. That's very highly touted. So yeah, I was absolutely delighted for them all.
I felt so happy for Adeyemo when he found the back of the net after that as well, and I think everyone inside Vicarage Road was just delighted for him. And they didn't if anyone was going to score at that moment, we all would have put our money on Adeyemo, but we wanted to score, and to see his reaction after he scored, running over to Greaves, like he didn't know what to do. He couldn't believe he scored, like putting his hands on his head, seeing his best mate in the corner. And it was just such a special moment, and it was fantastic to see. We've not had a moment like this for ages. Well, since what was it? I saw Andrew French put up a tweet yesterday. The last academy player to score in his debut was Dominic Blizzard back in 2004. So Watford haven't had a debutant academy player score on their debut since 2004, which is ridiculous. It's 19 years ago. And it's just great to see. And like you say, he's so humble, so grounded. And I don't think this would go to his head either. But he made an instant impact when he came off the bench, Tom. Like, Bio's performance is frustrating, and he should have got a goal in that early in the second half when Sarr cut the ball back to him, and he hit it straight at Maxwell in the Blackpool goal, and he should have done a lot better. The moment Adeyemo came onto a pitch, he held the ball up, dribbled it, released it, found a yellow shirt, and that was all within 2 minutes of being on the pitch. That was before he scored that goal. So that would have given him confidence straight away. But he showed more in those 4 minutes than what Bio did in the whole 60 minutes. And while we're talking about Bio as well, you wouldn't have liked the way he went off the pitch there as well, Tom, would you? Seeing the reaction, he saw his number. It looked like he threw his toys out the pram. He didn't like that he was being replaced by an academy guy, thinking that he's the £5 million man. He should be the one staying on the pitch to provide the goals for Watford. But he got shown up yesterday, didn't he, Tom?
Well, I've got a bit of sympathy for Bio. I mean, he's a very frustrating player to watch because the ball just doesn't stick with him. If you're a lone man up front, you need to be able to hold the ball up to bring other players in, and he just looks very clumsy. But equally, he does pop up with some goals, and in the box, his positioning is very good. And on another day, he could have scored that pullback from Sarr. As I said, he's very, very frustrating to watch. But I mean, this is an opportunity for him in Davis's absence. He's got some games now where he probably thought that he's not going to have much competition up front, and I can see why he was frustrated. He's one of these players that will pop up, it will have a bad game and then pop up with a goal at the end. We've seen it from most of the games that he's played. He's a very he's a player that's tough to watch, and you always feel as though you can get better from him. But as I said, his positioning is quite good in the box. But I don't think he gives us enough for him to be considered to challenge Davis, really. And the sentiment that we've seen throughout this season as Watford fans is that we face less talented teams on paper, but hard work will always beat talent where talent doesn't work hard. And you've got players like Adeyemo. He's far from the finished article, but he run his heart off, run his socks off, and he got his reward there just after just 4 minutes. And it can't be an easy job. 17-year-old kid, you're coming in to lead the line of a side that's expected to be right up there in the amongst the promotion candidates. So I hope he gets more of a chance. I'm not sure whether he's necessarily ready for a start, but I hope that he's becomes more of a figure in this first team and can get the chance to get minutes.
Well, he's given himself a great platform to build on now, hasn't he? Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's anywhere near the standard that you need to start games in the Championship yet. Like, he's still learning, isn't he? He's still learning his trade. He's a second-year scholar still. Last month he was on loan at Hitchin Town, and now he's coming off the bench scoring against Blackpool. So he's came a long way in his rise at Watford Football Club. He's also, I think he's eligible to play for Nigeria as well, which is one to watch in the future. Watford love Nigerian players in their starting lineup. But Adeyemo's actually, his goal makes him the 8th youngest scorer in Watford's history, demoting John Barnes down to the 9th on the list. And he's actually turns 18 in March. Tom, can you remember what you was doing when you were 17?
Well, I wouldn't have been ready to play for Watford, put it like that. You might have found me in a few bars in central Watford. But yeah, again, just to come back to that interview, such a humble kid, and you can't help but take to him immediately after those interviews and hearing about it being a dream come true for him. Just brilliant stuff.
It was. But also there was other academy players that got onto the pitch yesterday. We'll talk about one now. I think you mentioned him at the very start of the podcast. James Morris. He seems to be growing with each game. Each 90 minutes getting under his belt, he looks like he's improving. At Norwich away, I thought he was shaky at the start. I thought he was playing some wayward overhit crosses, but he steadied his nerves and improved as the game went on. I thought yesterday he was terrific, and if anything, he was maybe a joint man of the match for me with a couple other players, maybe like Kone and Sarr and Cathcart. I thought all four of them was outstanding, but James Morris, he's really taken this opportunity, hasn't he? He stepped up. Hassan Kamara, 4-match game suspension, no problem. James Morris just came in. Last 2 league games he's had 2 clean sheets as well. He's just going from strength to strength, isn't he, Tom?
Yeah, he's another one that's a very likable kid and very level-headed from the interviews that you see. And it just goes back to what I said earlier. You get players that they're not going to be the finished article, the polished gem straight away, but they're going to need time. And as you mentioned there, he's had a few wobbly periods, but he was very good yesterday, and you can just see his confidence grow. He's had a start against Norwich, and he's one of the favourites. And then starting at home to Blackpool, and I thought he was brilliant. He was good going forwards, and he bottled up Josh Bowler, who's a very highly rated Blackpool winger. I thought he did very well. There's clearly room for improvement there. I think his crossing could do with a bit more work, and similarly, sort of defensively, he was great going forwards. But these are all things that these players are going to need to improve on throughout their career. So I'm not sure whether Kamara comes straight back into this team.
That's going to be the next question. Does it give Bilic a bit of a headache now? Like, obviously, before Morris's performances, you think Kamara would walk straight back into the side. Now I'm thinking it would be quite harsh to drop Morris after the performances he's put in. Would you maybe just keep him in for a Rotherham game, just give him a bit more, another 90 minutes at home against a side down the lower end of the table before we travel up to Middlesbrough and maybe bring Kamara back for Middlesbrough?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got rose-tinted glasses like most of us with regards to Morris, and I mean, he didn't come up through the academy, but he was brought in as a youngster from Southampton. So yeah, I certainly think he's good value for to hold that position. But I guess we're not seeing in training how he matches up to Kamara, who's he's got bundles of experience compared to Morris. It would be completely Bilic's decision, and I can see reasons for both. I'd like to see, for romantic reasons, for Morris to keep going in that side and to get a chance to really push on and cement himself as the starting fullback in this side. I think he's good enough. He's got the tools. It's just whether he's going to get the time to, as I said, to make the mistakes and to improve, and for his confidence. If he keeps on building in terms of his performances, his confidence, every part of his game that he's done in the short period of time he's been in this team, we've got a decent player there. Yeah, especially when Kamara goes back to Udinese, as will likely happen at some point.
Yeah, I think he's a great understudy for Kamara. I don't think he's maybe there yet. And like you say, experience as well. I think I'd rather Kamara to start games in the Championship than James Morris. But James Morris has done himself no harm at all in these 4 games where he's stepped up, and he's really stepped up as well. He's improving with each game, and I'm excited to see how he does in his career. Like you say, not just Watford, his footballing career, because he seems such a likable guy, and he just wants to learn and gets his head down, and he's really performing at the moment. So hats off to him. Another young guy, Tom, I'm not sure. Did you go to the Reading FA Cup game?
No, I didn't know.
No, so this would have been your first opportunity to watching Kone as well. What did you make of Kone's performance? I love watching him. I thought for his age, he looks quite a mature player.
Yeah, he's a very, very interesting player. He looks very sharp. I thought, coming from from MLS, I think was it MLS from Toronto. He might take a bit of time to warm up to the Championship physicality, if nothing else. But yeah, I thought he looked very sharp. He was playing quite advanced, and he wasn't afraid to have a shot as well. He looks very agile, sort of low centre of gravity, and he can carry the ball. And he was involved in a lot of the good attacking play yesterday.
Yeah, I like his first thought when he got the ball was to pass the ball forward, and he actually played progressive football and cut them open a few times as well. And his ball over the top to find Martins, where he was brought down for a penalty as well, was superb. Just dinked it over, pinpoint accuracy, and perfect weight on it for Martins to run onto the end of it. And I thought, cool, we got a player here. If he can pick out balls like that in his first league home game at Watford at the age of, is he 19 maybe? Then we've got some hell of a player on our hands. And like you say, I would have expected him to maybe struggle straight away. Just you need time to adapt, coming over to a new continent, new league. But he just took it to like duck to water, and it's really promising. I do like the look of him. I mentioned him there. Martins came on as well for his debut, the guy on loan from Indonesia via Fluminense. He looks a player as well, doesn't he? He looks very direct.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously the caveat of we've only seen them for, well, Martins for 45 minutes. Excuse me. Kone for a game and an FA Cup game. So there's time for them to improve. But yeah, he looked really sharp. He was so dangerous on the break as well, as you mentioned there. That the Kone ball through. I think he was instrumental in Adeyemo's goal, wasn't it? His shot was parried by the keeper into Adeyemo's path, and yeah, he just showed a lot of promise there. I keep on relating players and comparing them, but he did remind me a bit of Cucho with his quite stocky, low centre of gravity, got a burst of speed, and he's got a real sort of stinging shot. Not much kind of backlift on it. So yeah, I think he'll be pleased with his debut, and we'll look to look to build on that and improve it. And I think he's worthy of a. Well, it seems to be as though he's expected to be a starter, or well, certainly a starter now, but push on for one of the strongest 11 spots.
Yeah, also had blonde hair like Kucho as well. I thought that's where you was going to go with blonde hair, tan skinned.
Yeah,
He had this, but you're right. He had the same stocky build. He's quite small as well. But I was expecting more pace out of him. But when he did get on the ball, he showed a bit of pace. But I was expecting him to be a bit more quicker. I don't know why, but it was still effective enough. One thing I did notice, though, it didn't look like he wanted to do the defensive side of the game, and it left Ferreira a bit open on the right hand side a few times. And I thought he needs to improve on that side of his game. But look, he was literally in the country for about 2 days prior to starting yesterday because he had to sort out his work permit, go back to Brazil, then go to Italy and Indonesia, be revealed there, come back to Watford and then played. But yeah, that's probably a bit harsh for me to point that thing out, and I know he'll probably improve on it. But I just like that he's bringing back the magic to that number 37 shirt as well, which was previously owned by Roberto Pereira, another South American. So I'm loving that. I'm loving all these players picking up all their old shirt numbers as well. And another guy is picking up an old shirt number, and I was devastated that he's actually wearing this because I thought they retired the number 11 shirt after the stint of Adam Messina. Is Ferreira. How did you think he did on his debut? I thought he maybe struggled early on, but then he got better, or maybe he looks better going forward than what he is defensively in that 45 minutes.
Yeah, again, I think it's a bit difficult to make a real decision about him or a judgment on him, but he did struggle initially, and for the reasons we've said before, it's completely expected coming from a completely different league, different country, and facing Blackpool. So yeah, I think he got caught positionally a couple of times, lost a couple of headers, and I think he got bailed out by Sierralta, I think it was, where he got caught on the back foot. But yeah, fortunately, we were playing an out of form Blackpool side. Yeah, so hopefully he's one that can push. Well, like all of them, hopefully they can push on. It didn't sound as though it was necessarily Bilic's priority in the transfer window. So I wonder how Bilic's comments went down. But yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a particular need, but I guess we're going to need some competition for Ngaki. I wasn't keen on him yesterday. Didn't think he played that well. So, right competition, and if he can even push Ngaki on, that's going to be for the benefit of the team.
Yeah, definitely. Competition is going to make it healthy, and it'll only make that side of a pitch stronger. What are you making of Mario Gaspar in the centre of the park? I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely loving it. I think he looks more comfortable there. He's getting stuck in. I like that he picked up a yellow card as well yesterday. He just, yeah, I'm really enjoying watching him play in that central midfield.
I'm a big fan of players like Gaspar. He's a cultured player. He's been there, done it all. I think he's got a couple of caps for Spain. Perhaps I think he's got a couple of caps for Spain. He's played in the Europa League. He's a real club legend at Villarreal. And there was no reason for him to come to Watford, really. It's not as though that would be the last thing to tick off on your career before you retire. And he's not a youngster either. So I think it was a bit unfair sticking him in at right back, particularly in the early days where we needed very quick wing backs. But yeah, I think he's showing his experience positionally. He's disrupting in midfields. Breaking up the opposition attacks and just playing the ball simple. And sometimes that's all you need. I think he's been a very good stand-in and a surprising one, I think, for most people in the centre, but a welcome one. And that team that ended the game yesterday was very young. We've clearly, with all these injuries, got an absence of experience, and players like Gaspar will benefit, certainly the youngsters.
Yeah, definitely. And his performance was probably helped by the return of Hamza Chowdhury as well. Hamza doesn't shy away from challenges. And when Watford needed it yesterday, I thought he added that bite into the midfield. And when it was a bit flat in the stands, you kind of needed Hamza Chowdhury to slide in and win a ball. And it would get the fans back on side. And he delivered on a couple of occasions yesterday. But Hamza Chowdhury, we've said it before, I don't think you realise what he does to the team until he's missing from that side. And yesterday he came back and he offered exactly what Watford needed. That was a superb 60 minutes, wasn't it, Tom? Slaven Bilic said that he was always going to get 60, 70 minutes because he was just coming back from injury. It was a relief that he didn't pick up a hamstring injury during that return, which we've seen lately. But good, solid return from Hamza.
Yeah, big fan, as I'm sure you know, Ben, but I'm a big fan of Hamza. I was a bit surprised that he didn't show any rustiness. He's been out for a few weeks. It was great to have him back. He made some real vital defensive contributions there. And I don't think we got a player really as like him in that position. That I've said it plenty of times in the past. Reminds me a bit of Valon Barami in his sort of tenaciousness and destructiveness in the middle. I think, the first half we were a bit lacking attacking penetration, and it was a bit flat, as you said. And he's the sort of player that will get the crowd going a little bit with a real sort of fierce tackle. Big fan of his, and I hope he can stay fit for the rest of the season and beyond. Hopefully in a yellow shirt as well.
And it goes back to me saying about how people feel disconnected, and that one player I do feel connected to is Hamza Chowdhury. And it's strange because he's a lone player, but the way he leaves absolutely everything on the pitch is what I want to see from a Watford player. And he delivers. And we've actually got a song for him as well. And when Watford fans feel something towards a player, you get a song. And I was thinking yesterday, because we've got a song for Ismail Assar now, don't we, Tom? That was being chanted in the rookery. The only three Watford players, really, or four players, you've got Daniel Batman, if they've got a song for him, Super Daniel Batman. You've got João Pedro, you've got Hamza Chowdhury, and now Ismail Assar. So Watford fans are slowly getting songs for players in this side, and we've not had that for a long time. And maybe is that a sign of the Watford fans slowly having a connection with some of these players, Tom, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. It shows appreciation for them, and it always helps if they've got a surname that rhymes with something or fits into a song. I think we were struggling with Saar for a while, but
Yeah.
yeah, we brought a classic back to get to sing in the stands. But yeah, I can see why people love him. I love him. He's just exactly as a someone that's grown up watching a lot of English football and British football. You just love a tackle, don't you? You know, a real sort of gritty 50-50, and you know he's going to give it his all, as you said. And 9 times out of 10, he's going to win those tackles.
Yeah, I just love the hair as well, and I don't know why. When I see him, I think I don't know if he's like a long lost member of diversity as well. Every time I see him, I think he's just going to start breakdancing.
Well, I tell you what, you might if we do well towards the end of the season, you might see a few of those wigs popping up in the stands.
We'll get this going. We'll start doing a Hamza Chowdhury appreciation day, maybe like last home game or something, and just get everyone to buy wigs on Amazon or something and turn up. Imagine everyone coming through the turnstiles with Hamza Chowdhury wigs on. It'll be a sight. Everyone walking down Occupation Road. Just yeah, that's what we want to see. But we've mentioned him very briefly there, Tom. Ismaila Sarr. I thought he was on it yesterday. I don't know if that's because it's January. I've seen people mention that before, or was it just because it was against Blackpool as well, against a side where he knew he could probably perform well against them. But I thought it was phenomenal, Tom. I thought that's probably one of the best complete performances from Ismaila Sarr for a very long time.
Yeah, well, he needs to step up in this team because it lacks, or certainly up until potentially Martins gets going, it does lack a bit of creativity. So we're hoping for it cost a lot of money. We know what he can do on his day. So he needs to step up, and he did. He looked hungry yesterday, and he had to ride a few rough challenges as well. He was clearly targeted by Blackpool, but he still continued, and he was integral in that win yesterday. And he scored a penalty as well. When he sort of walked up to it, I thought, oh dear, we know what's going to happen here, don't we? But I think from my angle, it looked as though he gave the keeper the eyes and sent him the wrong way. But yeah, they're more of those performances are what we need from Sarr, and ultimately they're the performances that are going to buy him his move, earn him his move. He probably doesn't want to go to Crystal Palace. He's got higher ambitions than that, but he has to put it out on the pitch because he's clearly, I think, talent wise, our best player. And as you said, it's January, so yeah.
Yeah, it was Sarr's seventh goal of the season. It's his 31st for the club in 113 appearances. We just want to see more performances of that caliber from Sarr. We all know he can deliver like that. I think it's a bit of self-belief with Sarr sometimes. Like, am I really that quick? Yes, you are. Now run, because you can beat a man. He just looked dangerous yesterday. He just looked on it from the off. And like you say, that's what we need from Ismaila Sarr. We need to see it more often. We need to see it week in, week out. We want to see the same against Rotherham on Saturday, and hopefully we do get to see that. What did you make of the performance altogether, though, Tom? 2-0 victory at home against Blackpool. It's kind of what you would have wanted coming away from it. You would have wanted to pick up 3 points, but performance-wise, were you happy with the performance?
I think results-wise, it was one of those we had to win. Really, Blackpool, as we mentioned earlier, was struggling. If you've got any promotion ambition, you must be winning those sort of games, especially at home. I think there was a stat that we'd won before yesterday's game. We'd won half of our home games, and that's not really promotion form. So these are the games that we need to be winning. I mean, we've got a lot of injuries, so we're in a unique position in that sense. But regardless, if we've got to ride out these times and pick up points. I don't think Blackpool really offered that much yesterday in terms of. I thought they were quite happy to sit on a point, time wasting from about half time, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, got over the line. A couple of decent moments, and I think the subs at half time changed it really. So props to Bilic for that, and the shape that changed. But yeah, I think the first half was solid, but I didn't think we were very threatening, and we need to have our foot on the gas a bit more, I think. But a win's a win. They'll learn from that, and hopefully it's a building platform. The galvanising effect of the youngsters coming in, playing well, scoring a goal. Hopefully that gives the whole squad a lift, and we can kind of start from here. We've said it a few times now, after a win. Hopefully we can start. This can be the platform in which we can go on a good run. I think what yesterday proved is that we've got players in the background that can step up and perform. And I don't feel as though we've had the sense of that prior to yesterday. I think we've had a strong first 11, and then players that haven't had much game time, very rusty, struggling, probably don't know that don't consider themselves first teamers anyway. But with the youngsters coming in, hunger, desire, perhaps lacking a little bit of quality, but yeah, no one can rest on their laurels, I don't think now. And we're going to be stronger with the players that come back to fitness, and hopefully they can find out the reason for all these injuries. I don't know whether the pitch needs to be ripped up and looked at, or what needs to happen, but it is a bit strange.
Yeah, hopefully they get to the bottom of it. But yeah, 3 points for Watford. It's what the doctors ordered. We've got Rotherham coming up next on Saturday. It's another game where you fancy Watford to take all 3 points, and if you're serious about promotion, you've got to be winning these games. Sheffield United won again yesterday, so the gap is still 11 points. It was interesting during the week, actually, Tom. Ben Manga says that the top two's gone, and then Slaven Bilic just came out with quotes from Andrew French saying that he disagrees and he feels that they're not out of reach. Where do you stand with this? Are you more with Bilic, thinking that we've still got to play Sheffield United? That's 3 points you can claw back then. The Championship's a slog, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a long slog, and anyone can beat anyone. That old cliche. I think I'd have been disappointed if Bilic would have said that the top two are gone. They're not up for grabs. That's exactly what you don't want to be hearing from the current head coach, and he probably wouldn't be current head coach for too much longer if that dripped into the side. But yeah, I'm not sure whether there was a meaning behind a deeper meaning behind Manga's comments. He seems to have come in with quite a broad remit, and I hope that he's trusted to implement his policies and his way of working, which was so successful at Frankfurt. I think the jury's out on that, knowing our owner as we do. But something clearly needed to change, and I'm glad the noises from the club and from Manga himself seem to suggest that we're trying a different direction. I don't know how much influence he had yesterday over the academy youngsters coming in. I'm not sure whether that's something that he's pinpointed with Bilic, but yeah, onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's exciting times ahead. I think the Martins deal was probably done and dusted before Manga turned up. Same with Kone, but I think João Ferreira's the one at the moment where obviously the links with Helena Costa and Benfica. So I think that's a Manga addition. So hopefully that will be decent for Watford. But yeah, just quickly before we wrap it up, Tom, the new edition of the Golden Pages is out, isn't it? Is it issue 28?
It is, yeah, 20. I've got a copy here. I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but I'm really impressed with that. That's my own work. So,
Did you do that yourself, the cover?
Yeah, well, I did the Pedro, the image itself, but the background is, I got that from elsewhere. But yeah,
that's brilliant.
Absolutely chuffed with how that went yesterday. That's been long in the making, this one. Yeah, I've had some brilliant contributions on it, and when I started it, it was quite a dark period for Watford. We're going through a bad run of form. There's a lot of negativity, so I focused on the great Derby day that we had recently.
Oh,
So I've got a
double
section on
page
that, which
spread.
yeah, there's a few pages devoted to it. So after a loss, maybe people can pick that up and cheer themselves up. But yeah, a good first day of sales. I'll be as ever outside the front of, well, right near the shop and opposite the Red Lion before kick-off. So pick up a copy of that, £3. If you can bring coins, that's much appreciated because can't take card yet. But yeah, it's a good read. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. It looks good. I saw good reviews of it on Twitter yesterday. A few people saying they've got the new copy and it's well worth a read. I think there's a half-term report in there. You talked about the Derby day. So yeah, make sure you go see Tom for the Rotherham United game. He'll be standing near the Graham Taylor statue opposite the Red Lion. Yeah, make sure that you bring your cash, £3, and it's well worth a read. Tom, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's been nice to actually talk about 3 points for once, eh?
Yeah, no, it's always great to be on, Ben. Really appreciate you inviting me. And yes, yeah, it's got a smile on my face, so as you have as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully a few more of these down the line between now and the end of the season.
let's hope so. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, 6 days' time against Rotherham United, we'll have bigger smiles on our faces. But we support Watford Football Club, so anything can happen. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone, tonight. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And me and Mike will be back for the review of the Rotherham United game next Sunday. Stay safe, everyone, and come on, you Orns.